It's the Raiders. It's the Cowboys. It's prime time. We get you ready for Monday Night Football, closing out Week 11 on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, November 13th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one sports podcast network. We're very proud of that. Also very proud of the fact that the show grows each and every day because of your support. We shout out my man Ari, does a great job behind the scenes each and every day, making sure we look good and sound good. We shout him out. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And, of course, you want to be a part of the show, the Locked On Raiders podcast, voicemail line 707-654-4693. No calls or texts on today's show. We'll get back to that closing out the week coming up tomorrow, because today is Thursday, and anyone who's been listening to this show or watching this show for a little bit of time knows today is crossover Thursday. We take a look at the next opponent up on the schedule. This time, primetime action, Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys coming to Allegiant Stadium. When the schedule dropped, man, this was one that everyone had circled. Man, the Cowboys, the Raiders, it's going to be Brian Schottenheimer versus Pete Carroll, right? Of course, they work together in Seattle, and the Raiders are going to be playing a lot better, and who knows what the Cowboys are going to be looking like. This is going to be a great matchup. Well, the Cowboys have underachieved, and I think it's safe to say the Raiders have underachieved as well. But they still play the games. They still are going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about it. Marcus Mosher, host of Locked On Cowboys, and myself will talk biggest storylines. We'll talk biggest matchups and, of course, keys to victory for both teams. We'll jump into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Marcus Mosher, host of Locked On Cowboys, and myself here in segment number one, talking about the biggest storylines when it comes to the Raiders and the Cowboys. Let's get it.
Two teams that are in a rough spot right now. What's the biggest storyline in Las Vegas right now?
Well, now that the Raiders are sitting there at 2-7, and I think we kind of know what kind of season it is, it's all about evaluation season and who's going to be with this team moving forward and what pieces do they have to build on. It's a lot of, who fits, what doesn't fit, can they work out the kinks? Look, the offense hasn't seemed like it's been on the same page with the head coach, and I mean really Chip Kelly as far as offensive coordinator and being on the same page with Pete Carroll. It just hasn't seemed like that they've been on the same page really throughout the course of the season. And now that Jacoby Myers is gone, now you're looking at some young guys to step up. Can a Jack Bech step up? Second-round pick out of TCU. Can a Dante Thornton Jr. step up? Fourth-round pick out of Tennessee. And then you lose Jackson Powers-Johnson. So he was your second-round pick, your right guard from a year ago. And now all of a sudden you have a guy like Caleb Rogers, a third-round pick out of Texas Tech. He's looking like he's going to get his first start on Monday against the Cowboys. So it's really about young pieces, seeing what works, what doesn't work, if these guys fit, if this draft class that John Spytek put together as the GM of the Raiders, if this was a really good, productive draft class. Because honestly, outside of Asher Genty, you really haven't seen much from this draft class. So now I think at this stage of the game, really the rest of the season, it's all about who's going to be what for this Raiders team now and in the future.
And the Cowboys are in the same spot, right? They've got a first-year head coach, just like the Raiders do with Pete Carroll. Now, obviously, he's been a head coach before, but
Yeah.
it's awful to be in evaluation mode going into Week 11.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this is where Dallas and Las Vegas are, and this is where they both were at last year. And what you want to just see is positive momentum in the second half of the year. Have some of the young players step up. Like, we know what Tyler Lockett is for the Raiders. We don't really need to see Tyler Lockett in a big role. You want to see Dante Thornton and Jack Bech start to get more opportunities. And the same is true in Dallas. I mean, they're in a little bit different spot on offense, where the offense is very young and they're under contract. But on defense, can this unit be better? I mean, they've been awful in the first half of the year. This will be Quinnen Williams' first game with the team. Same with Logan Wilson. Do those two guys make this defense respectable? I mean, they're not going to be good. I'm trying to find the right word. And I know the Raiders have been in this situation before. You're just trying to find out who are the 5 or 6 guys on defense that you feel good about going into the offseason, so you don't have to completely rehaul the entire unit.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I'll tell you what, man, Quinnen Williams, I was a big fan of his coming out of Alabama when the Jets were able to draft him number 3 overall. I think that he's licking his chops for Monday night. I really do, because this Raiders offensive line has been very suspect all season long. right? They've been trying to find the right parts to fit. And as I mentioned, with JPJ going down, Colton Miller's already down. So now you have, just a mixed match of guys that are going in. As I mentioned, Caleb Rogers, the rookie, getting his first opportunity to play. And oh, by the way, you got this dude named Quentin Williams across from you. So this is going to be really an interesting test. Jordan Meredith has been really a project at the center position for the Raiders this year. So I think Quentin Williams is really going to try to make a huge impression on this Cowboys defense and just really make a big statement on Monday Night Football, the biggest stage, obviously in Las Vegas. It's going to be a lot of fun, but man, you want to talk about a challenge and you want to talk about hey, Caleb Rogers, welcome to the NFL. Here you go. This dude named Quentin Williams across from you. So yeah, that's going to be really intriguing on Monday night.
I covered the Raiders in 2019 for USA Today during that draft. And I just remember it was Kyler Murray, Nick Bosa, Quentin Williams. And it's like, it's a huge drop off at pick number 4. I don't think we knew it was going to be that big with Cleveland Farrell, but good times. We're reminiscing about the Raiders draft classes under Mike Mayock and John Gruden. Let's talk about the quarterback situation right now in Las Vegas. The Raiders brought in Geno Smith to help stabilize that position after Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Derek Carr's departure several years ago.
Yeah.
It's been pretty rough, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's been everything but stable, right? And you're right. That's what they brought Geno Smith in for. They looked at the draft class and said, hey, this is not a very sexy draft class when it comes to the quarterback position, so let's not force it. So they went and got Geno Smith, someone that Pete Carroll's very comfortable with and familiar with, but it just hasn't been there. And look, a lot of it goes back to the struggles of the offensive line. When he snaps the ball, he's looking at the protection immediately as opposed to looking down the field. He's tried to, force the ball into situations that aren't there. And that's why he's had so many turnovers so far this season. It just hasn't worked. He hasn't really been willing to use his legs like I thought he was going to be willing to do. It just has not worked out the way that I envisioned this Raiders offense looking under Geno Smith. And so now you start to talk about, all right, it's evaluation season. At what point do you look at Kenny Pickett, who they gave up a 5th-round pick to Cleveland to bring in? At what point do you maybe bring Aiden O'Connell back, once he gets put back onto the 53-man roster as his 21-day window is open right now to come back from injury? So, there's a couple different options that they have at that quarterback position. I'll be honest, I think they're going to try to ride with Geno a little bit longer. But, I mean, if he goes out there Monday night and has a couple more bad turnovers and just a bad performance, at what stage of the game do you say, okay, we got to stop the bleeding and try to put someone else in there to see what they bring to the table? So wouldn't be surprised to see Kenny Pickett or Aiden O'Connell sooner rather than later. I don't think it's going to be this week, but the quarterback position for the Raiders has been everything but stable since Smith has been with the Raiders.
I want to ask you about going back to the evaluation process. Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator with the Raiders right now. I believe is the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league.
Yep.
How much of the second half of the year is just even evaluating Chip Kelly? Because, as somebody who watched that Bronco Raider game last week voluntarily,
sorry,
yeah, I know. It was interesting to see Brock Bowers being used so infrequently. I mean, I saw a lot of first and second downs. He wasn't even on the field. I think he had 3 targets in that game.
Yeah.
Is there a concern from Raiders Nation that maybe Chip Kelly isn't the right guy for this job?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that that's fair. And it's funny because when he got hired, I was excited. I'm thinking, man, okay, this guy, just won a national championship at Ohio State. He's a very creative offensive mind. We know what he was as a head coach in the National Football League, but you don't have to be a head coach. All you got to do is be the offensive coordinator. So I thought this was going to be really good, knowing that they had Brock Bowers, knowing that they drafted Ashton Genty, bringing in Geno Smith. I'm thinking, okay, they've got some weapons here. This is going to be a fun offense to watch. And again, it's been everything but that. And I do think that Chip Kelly is going to be under some scrutiny and really paying attention to what he's doing down the stretch. But the big problem is, how do you get a proper evaluation when you don't have your offensive line intact, when your quarterback is struggling, when now you have
but that's a front office issue, right? You can't go into the year with Alex Kappa as and then you're moving JPJ all around and center guard, and then he's benched some weeks. It seems like the front office and the coaching staff just isn't on the same page.
Thank you. I've been saying that for weeks. And that's the big question now. Who brought in Chip Kelly? Who hired Pete Carroll? Who brought in Geno Smith? There's a lot of conversations about, maybe Pete Carroll was Mark Davis's guy and Chip Kelly was Tom Brady's guy. And you know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't seem like everyone is on the same page. And as you know, that's the biggest issue. If your team's not on the same page, it's not going to be successful.
Well, and the same is true for Dallas. Matt Eberflus is the Cowboys defensive coordinator. He was a head coach with Chicago. We know how that worked out. And then when the Cowboys announced the Brian Schottenheimer hiring, it was late on a Friday night. It was like minutes afterwards that Matt Eberflus was announced to be the defensive coordinator without any real process of, figuring out who this defensive coordinator is going to be. And some of the whispers are that this was Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones's hire and not Brian Schottenheimer. And now that the defense has performed so poorly in the first half of the year, I think everybody's just evaluating, hey, is Eberflus the right guy for the job? They've been atrocious on that side of the ball. And I think now that they have some more talent, it's really up to Eberflus to show that he can hold on to this job. So again, it's not the sexiest Monday night matchup outside of it being the Raiders.
It looks good on paper. It looks fantastic on paper.
Well, it does. And the jerseys are going to look great as always, right? But we're in a spot where you're kind of looking ahead to 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is, because I know a lot of people were excited about this Monday Night Football matchup when it hit the schedule, right? Cowboys, Raiders, Legion Stadium, man. Oh, it's going to be fantastic. Monday Night Football. But it's just both teams have underachieved. At least the Cowboys offense has been, fun to watch. They put up a lot of points, but you're right. The defense has been, atrocious. And me and you could probably score a touchdown against them. But, we're not going to be on the field, so we're good.
The great elixir for the Raiders offense, they played Denver last week, maybe the best defense in the league. Now you play the Cowboys. So this should be like playing 7-on-7. We'll talk about some matchups to watch here next.
So those are the biggest storylines in this matchup, closing out Week 11 Monday Night Football, Cowboys and the Raiders. What are the biggest matchups? I'll tell you right now, I kind of hinted at one of the biggest matchups there in segment number 1. Well, we'll go ahead and break that down. Coming up, segment number 2, Cowboys, Raiders, prime time action, closing out Week 11 Monday Night Football. We'll do that coming up, segment number 2. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple sponsors that we have here on the show, and the first one is Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has a next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. I also want to tell you about PrizePicks, the title sponsor of today's show. And you and I, we make decisions every day. But on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of the sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or a combination of the two, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get them right, you win. Just like that. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So you could use PrizePicks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every single game exciting. You could pick from your favorite players in both sports, the NFL and NBA. And they have the new Stacks feature, which is a game changer. You can now pick more on, say, Steph Curry's points, threes, and even assists in the same lineup. And if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. Right now, download the PrizePicks apps today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time to jump into part 2 of the conversation. Marcus Mosher, host of Locked On Cowboys, and myself. We talked about the biggest storylines in segment number 1. Now it's time to talk about the matchups. What is really the keys to what we're paying attention to? Where will we be looking at the matchups that are going to matter in this game? We'll go ahead and jump into part 2 of our conversation right now.
Let's dive into this Monday Night Football matchup some more. What are a couple of matchups that you are fascinated to see here between the Raiders and Cowboys?
Well, I kind of touched on it when we were talking about the storylines, and I'm really looking at the trenches and want to see how that offensive line is going to fare against the Cowboys defensive line. And not because, the Cowboys defensive line are the, purple people eaters or, the biggest, most dangerous defensive line out there or whatever. They're not the Broncos that have the league leading 46 sacks and obviously dominated the Raiders last week. But I just want to see what Caleb Rogers getting a start now, getting an opportunity at that right guard spot. I believe he's going to be at the right guard spot. That's the other interesting thing because Dylan Parham got banged up as well against Denver. So I'm assuming that he's going to play coming up on Monday, but that's an assumption.
He kind of spilled the beans a little bit in an interview that he was going to be starting this week, which is
right. So I feel like he's going to, until we actually see him out there, we don't know. But I think that Caleb Rogers will get that start at the right guard spot. And it's just not going to be easy going up against, a veteran in Quentin Williams, who just got traded. Right. He just got traded. So you know how it is, right? Whenever there's some kind of a new move or, a guy is added to a team, he always wants to go out and show out that first game and under the bright lights. Why wouldn't Quentin Williams want to go out there and ball out? So I'm really intrigued to see how this new offensive line, again, no Colton Miller, no JPJ, right? You got Jordan Meredith at the center spot, Dylan Parham, if he starts out there at the left guard spot, Caleb Rogers, DJ Glaze. How is this going to all come together, and how are they going to keep that Cowboy defensive line off of Geno Smith? How are they going to keep him clean and also open up some running holes for Ashton Genty, who I still don't believe is getting enough burn his rookie year? I think that they're underutilizing him. I don't think you drafted number 6 overall just to kind of spoon feed him some touches here and there. I think that they're really doing a disservice to Ashton Genty, but that's just me.
We should mention, because of a weird schedule quirk, Quentin Williams has had back-to-back bye weeks. They had a bye week in week 9 with the Jets, and then a bye week in week 10 for the Cowboys. And then this is a Monday night game in prime time. You just know that he's going to be ready to go in this game. And I'm sure that the Raiders are going to have they're going to double team him. They're going to try to limit his impact, but he's one of those guys that can take over a game even when he's being double teamed. So that's obviously probably the biggest matchup to watch. But I think for me, I'm going to the coaching staff. This is Brian Schottenheimer versus Pete Carroll. These guys coached together in Seattle. Pete Carroll actually fired Brian Schottenheimer, and now this is their first time to go up against each other as head coaches. What does this offense look like from Brian Schottenheimer? He's promised that coming out of the bye, they were going to reinvent themselves. They were going to make some big changes. How does he scheme up some big plays against a defense that he should know pretty well? And I know the Raiders have got some issues on the back end, and, the corners are pretty young, but can CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens have big games? I would think so.
Yeah, no, I feel like that they definitely can. And I'll say this, Eric Stokes for the Raiders at the cornerback position has actually had a quietly good season. He's been really good this year. He missed one game due to injury, but he's been very solid. The question has been the other corner, right? I mean, it's Caillou Blue Kelly had a good game last week against the Broncos, coming away with 2 interceptions, but I mean, he hasn't been very consistent. Then their rookie Darian Porter out of Iowa State, he's in and out of the lineup. So, I mean, it's a big question on the other side. So whoever's lining up, across from Caillou or lining up across from Darian Porter, whatever the case may be, is probably going to be the one that's targeted the most. I'm sure that whoever Eric Stokes lines up across, they're still going to target them, but it won't be as much, I don't think, as they will with the other side of the ball, right? With the other side of the, the corner position. So that's going to be something to pay attention to. Can Caillou Blue Kelly all of a sudden, build off of the success he had last week, coming away with a couple interceptions? Does that boost his confidence, or was that just a good day at the office and Bo Nix making some bad passes? I think Bo Nix made some bad passes.
Yeah, it was Bo Nix being Bo Nix, right? We can dunk on Bo Nix on this podcast. It's fine.
Hey, it's all good, all good. So yeah, I think that's definitely a question as well. That to me is can you slow those dudes down? Because I think CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are really good 1-2 punch when it comes to the wide receiver position, just in the National Football League in general, like what Brian Schottenheimer has done offensively. And I know you're talking about them coming out and kind of reinventing themselves. I know they had a couple, rough days at the office offensively, but for the most part, I thought that they were pretty good this season on the offensive side of the ball.
They have been good. They just, the last couple of weeks have been inconsistent, and the offensive line has not played particularly well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get physical and run the ball in this game. We'll see. I'm curious to see what the changes are on offense. One more matchup that I wanted to mention. I think Brock Bowers might be like the best skill player in the NFL, like legitimately. Now I know he's not always used that way, but you saw the game against Jacksonville. I mean, he's unstoppable when you
Yep.
feature him.
Yep.
The Cowboys are in a very rough spot in their secondary right now. Malik Hooker, they're starting free safety. He's out with a toe injury. Donovan Wilson's missed the last couple games with an elbow injury. The third safety, Wanye Thomas, he was just put on the injured reserve list because of migraines. Elijah Clark, their next safety, he's out of this game. Like, they are down to their fifth and sixth safeties. They're moving linebackers to safety, Marquise Bell. They've got a corner that they're going to be playing at safety. This, to me, sets up as a huge Brock Bowers game if Chip Kelly wants to use him that way.
You know, that's actually music to my ears, because look, he was dialed up. They called plays to get him the ball, and for some reason on Thursday night, Geno just did not feed him the rock. He didn't get him any targets in the second half. Like, that should be criminal, right? I made a joke and said, look, he should get targeted when he's not even in the game. Yeah. Right. I mean, there's the time where he's on the sideline. You just throw it to him just to keep him fresh. You know what I mean? Just, hey, he's out of the game on this play, but let's just throw him the ball anyway. Like, he should always get targets. There's no reason for him not to. So Geno's going to have to be comfortable with being Geno and get him the rock. I'm look, he doesn't have to get the ball 13 or 14 times a game, but I wouldn't be mad if he was.
Why not? I mean, he's the type of player that can handle that workload. Yeah,
for sure. But I'm not saying it's a requirement to get him the ball 14 times. But to your point, he can handle that. So why wouldn't you feature him, especially when you don't have Jacoby Myers as your number 2 target anymore? You traded him off to Jacksonville, and you're relying on some rookies to step up and fill that void. Brock Bowers is your consistent. Get him the ball. He's healthy. When you didn't have him for 3 games, that's all we heard about. Well, Brock's out. It makes a big difference. Okay, cool. Now he's back. Right? So you have to target him in the second half. They didn't target him one time in the second half against Denver. That's unexcusable. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah, as a Cowboy fan, you're going to be happy every time Geno Smith drops back and throws the football to anybody else but Brock Bowers. That's going to be a huge win. So again, you should do what the opponents don't want you to do, and that's just force feed Brock Bowers the football.
Right, exactly. Look, if you don't throw the ball to Brock Bowers, it's like when I watch the NBA and watch LeBron and he's taking a 3-pointer. That's a win, right? Yes. That's a win.
All right, let's talk about some keys to victory for the Cowboys and the Raiders going into this Monday Night Football matchup. We will get to that.
So that was the biggest matchups in this game. And Quinnen Williams, man, it seems like he's been off forever, right? As Marcus pointed out, multiple bye weeks back-to-back, hasn't played in quite a while. He's going to want to show up and show out Monday Night Football. Definitely pay attention to the trenches. We always pay attention to the trenches, but this one, really, especially with Caleb Rogers getting his first opportunity there at the right guard spot, that's really going to be one to pay attention to. But what is going to be the path to victory? What is going to have to be the non-negotiables? What needs to be done for the Cowboys to get a win or the Raiders to get a win? We'll talk about that coming up. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor we have here on the show, and that is Betterhelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. This season is so important to reach out and check in with friends, family, or even yourself. Just like checking in on a teammate or reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while, that could lift your spirits. Reaching out for therapy could make a real difference, too. BetterHelp makes that first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. And I'm sure you've noticed that simply talking things through sometimes, even for a few minutes, will help clear your head and get you back on track. Well, BetterHelp matches you with a therapist who fits your needs and can switch anytime if it's not the right match. And over 5 million people have used BetterHelp. With 30,000 therapists available, find support really is just a few clicks away. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist for yourself. BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Because taking that step towards support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast on this crossover Thursday presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I also want to shout out to you for making Locked On Raiders podcast your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate that in a major way. But you've heard about the biggest storylines. You've heard about the biggest matchups. Now it's time to jump into keys to victory. What is it going to take for the Cowboys? What is it going to take for the Raiders to come away from Allegiant Stadium Monday Night Football with the win? Let's jump into part 3 of our conversation. Marcus Mosher and me breaking it down right now here on the Locked On Raiders podcast.
All right, let's talk about some keys to victory. What do the Raiders need to do to get this win and to kind of get the ball rolling and getting back on track?
get out of their own way.
Yeah.
Right? They got to stop beating themselves. I mean, and as bad as that sounds, it's the truth. Against the Denver Broncos, they should have won that game about 4 or 5 times, just the way that they were playing. But 11 penalties, not going to cut it. A touchdown called back because of penalties. A drop pass that would have been a big-time play and score. Oh, by the way, missed field goals, right? I mean, they just do things to get in their own way, and they're not good enough to overcome these type things. They can't be penalized like that. They can't have double-digit penalties. They're not good enough. Right. It's just the reality. One thing after the other. Genty has a big 30-yard play run, and it gets called back because of a holding penalty that had nothing to do with the play. It's just one mistake turns into 2 mistakes, turns into 4 mistakes. The biggest key for the Raiders is not beating the Raiders. They can't have Geno Smith turning the ball over, throwing bad interceptions. And even the interception he threw on Thursday against the Denver Broncos, that was really, I put on Ashton Genty. It wasn't the greatest pass. He could have had some touch on it, but that was on Genty. It bounced off his hands and went right into the defender's hands. So I'll even chalk that up and say that wasn't on Geno. But there's been so many mistakes that they've made that is just it's really hard for them to have sustained success when it's, hey, there's 8 yards here, minus 5 yards here. There's a first down there. There's a holding penalty here. I mean, it's up and back, up and back. It doesn't make any sense. So they're making it so much harder on themselves. So first and foremost, for the Raiders to have any chance to win this game on Monday against Dallas, they cannot make the mistakes. They can't keep shooting themselves in the foot. And that's what they've done consistently all season long.
And for Dallas, it's all about the game script. Like they're just a bad team when they get behind in games. And you would think with their offense being this good, that wouldn't be a problem, that they can get right back in these games because of how good their offense is. But when they get behind, things just start to feel rushed and panicked, and the defense can't get stops, and the offense is now pressing. All of the games they've won, they've jumped out to early leads. They've played with the lead. They've run the ball, and then they can start blitzing and being more aggressive on defense. So you've got to start fast. You've been off for however many days now, 13 days, 14 days, getting ready for this game. You've got to start this one off fast. And if you let the Raiders get ahead and then they can lean on Genty, they can use the play action game. That's how you fall behind and lose.
Right. No, that's real. That's real. And the good thing about the Raiders defense is that they've done really well to start games off. You see them come out and a lot of times get a 3 and out, or even if they give up a first down, they'll still get off the field pretty quickly. But the offense hasn't been able to complement them. So if the Cowboys get off to a slow start and then the Raiders offense could find a way to take advantage of early success from the Raiders defense, that would be a good, recipe for them to have some success. The problem is complementary football. When the defense is playing really well, the offense is struggling. If the offense is playing well, the defense is struggling. They haven't really put together a full game where all these different units are, complementing each other. And, oh, by the way, their special teams coordinator, Tom McMahon, just got fired. So we'll see what Darius Swinton II, who has filled in for Tom McMahon before as the special teams coordinator, if he has any kind of wrinkle or if it looks a little bit different, because special teams has been everything but special for the Raiders this year. Daniel Carlson has not been very good. Their kickoff coverage has not been great. Their kick return has been a little bit better under Raheem Mostert when he's been returning the ball. So maybe the Cowboys don't want to kick it to him. But outside of that, their special teams has not been very special. AJ Cole's doing his thing. He's really good, consistently that guy. But outside of that, man, so that's going to be an intriguing, element of this game as well, right? The third phase that a lot of people don't talk about until it's going bad. Can the Raiders have a little bit of a spark from a change at the coordinator position?
And it's surprising that unit has been that bad, because I remember 2020, 2021, Daniel Carlson and AJ Cole, maybe the best specialist duo in the league. So we always talk about special teams for the Cowboys. They've got an all-pro kicker in Brandon Aubrey, an all-pro returner in Kevontae Turpin. Those guys have got to win this matchup if they want to steal this game on the road. And then the last thing for me, don't let Max Crosby take over this game. He is an unbelievable player. And I'm actually excited for the national audience to get to watch him again, because I don't think people will realize they know he's great. Right. They don't realize just how great he is. So double him, triple him, send a tight end over there. Don't let him be disrupted, because that entire defense feeds off of his energy. He's going to make his plays, but don't let him ruin the game.
Right. And see, that's the thing. He has to ruin the game. He has to be that guy for the Raiders. I've been asking who's going to be the Robin to his Batman for the longest. And as you know, the Raiders have brought in guys to try to be that. Chandler Jones, Malcolm Kuntz is there. They drafted Tyree Wilson. Nobody has stepped up and said, hey, I'll be that guy. They drafted, or they signed Christian Wilkins as a free agent. We all know how long that lasted, 5 whole games. And, it's just one thing after the other. Nobody has really complimented Max Crosby, so he needs to wreck the game. I know he's going to be super amped up. It's Monday Night Football, all eyes on Vegas, and that's just what that's how he gets down, man. He is a football junkie through and through, so he knows what Monday Night Football is all about. So on the biggest stage, he's definitely going to want to show up and show out. So that's the guy that I'll definitely be focused in on. And if the Cowboys have a little bit of crack in that offensive line, he's going to try to find it and exploit it.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making this Crossover Thursday your first listen of the day. Check out our shows on YouTube. You can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Q on Twitter at yourboyQ254. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and check us out on Friday, and then get ready for Monday Night Football later in the week. We'll see you guys then.
So there it is. There it was, the crossover edition, Locked On Raiders podcast, Locked On Cowboys. Marcus Mosher does a great job covering the Cowboys. Also covered the Raiders for a long time as well for USA Today, as you heard him mention earlier in the show. And so he's very familiar with this organization, obviously very familiar with the Cowboys as well. So really good breakdown as far as I'm concerned when it comes to storylines, matchups, and keys to victory. Two teams that have underachieved in 2025. But of course, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll have more news and notes. We'll have plenty of conversation. We won't do keys to victory. We won't do that till Monday, since the game's not till Monday. But we've got more to talk about, take you inside the Raiders locker room, and a whole lot more. So we'll close out the week really strong. We'll do that on tomorrow's show. Thanks so much again for making the show your first listen of the day, as always. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.